Good evening. Welcome to Resource PNG. Tonight we feature a report on Interoil and the PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum Women in Mining and Petroleum Initiative. We also feature an interview with the General Manager of Hidden Valley Gold Mine under the Morobe Joint Venture Project. But first we take a look at this report on the deal between Interoil and French energy giant Total. Interoil, towards the end of last month, cemented a revised deal with French energy giant Total. Under the revised agreement signed on 26th of March 2014, Total acquired, through the purchase of all shares in a wholly owned Interoil subsidiary, a gross 40.1% interest in PRL 15. Under this revised deal, Interoil retains 35.5% of the license and immediately receives $401 million for closing the transaction, and will receive $73 million on a final investment decision for an Elk Antelope LNG project and $65 million on the first LNG cargo. Interoil will also receive payments for certified gas volumes following appraisal of Elk Antelope. This strategic acquisition will enable Total to have exclusive command of the second LNG project, which is said to be the biggest undeveloped gas reserve in PNG. However, this revised deal between Interoil and Total has been left without challenge by Oil Search, who is another big player in the venture. In a recent MTV Insight program interview with Peter Botten, longtime managing director of Oil Search, his company's concern was on whether the joint operating agreement, or the rulebook that governs respective venture partners' interests in the Elk Antelope LNG project, has not been thwarted.
There are a number of ways that you can transfer interest to various companies, and one of those ways is to do what Interoil did back in December with their announcement with Total, is to say we're transferring interest directly to Total. Under those circumstances, other joint venture partners such as Oil Search have preemptive rights and have an ability to match that pricing. There are other ways of doing that, including putting interests into a company, getting the appropriate assignment between the various parties so that the interest is approved going into that company, and then selling the company. And the most recent deal, the revised deal that was put on the table by Total and Interoil earlier this week, involves the sale of an Interoil company to Total, who now own that company.
Oil Search's decision to seek legal clarification or arbitration on the nature of the revised deal between Interoil and Total is not something new. As companies with vested interests in major developments in the resource sector, they ought to operate in accordance with joint operating agreements. Thus, any commercial-related undertaking deemed not in line with rules governing a joint venture means that the aggrieved party has to seek legal remedy, such as arbitration, to ensure that its interests are secure. In this case, Oil Search Limited, as the aggrieved, has done what any other company would normally do when they feel their interest has been infringed upon by seeking arbitration.
We believe that there are doubts about the validity under the rulebook that we run by about those transfers, and we're therefore seeking further clarification that transfer was done properly. And if it wasn't done properly, then obviously Oil Search has the ability to potentially exercise our preemptive rights. This is normal sort of commercial practice between various companies. We have a rule book, we try and always stick by that rule book, but if there are disputes, then you can go to arbitration, you can go to the courts to make sure that your rights are protected, and that's what we're doing.
In terms of the public misunderstanding on the joint operating agreement of companies whose interests lie in the Elk Antelope gas discovery, Peter Botten urged the public to look at how the deal arrangement has been structured. In his explanation, Mr. Botten said that the deal had been designed in the following manner. Oil Search Limited is paying more money up front, considering that resource discoveries at Elk Antelope is over 70 cf of gas. Conversely, Total will have to pay less money up front, but more if anticipated gas discovery at Elk Antelope is well above the anticipated 70 CF of gas, thus bringing payment by Total on par with Oil Search Limited. On the same line, if gas discovery is well below the anticipated 70 CF of gas, then Total will still pay less, and Oil Search Limited will still pay more.
We're paying money up front for what we think to be a certain size of resource, as is Total. So we believe that the resource at Elk Antelope is a very substantial one. Potentially contains resource at more than 7 TCF of gas, which is a big resource. Now, Total believes that it is paying money up front, but if the resource gets large and gets to 7 TCF, effectively they're paying the same amount of money as us. So we're paying our money up front, but we're paying much less for the upside of the gas. They're paying their money, less money up front, but they're paying more money if the upside of the resource proves out. So a different structure of deal. And that was a requirement, a commercial requirement of the people we were buying it off. But at the end of the day, if the resource is 7 TCF and above, if it is 7 TCF and above, then Total pay more than us. If it's 7 TCF or less, then we pay slightly more than Total. You have to look at the detail of the commercial agreement to actually understand how we pay.
From a layman's perspective, understanding the logical reasoning behind such deal arrangements is complex. But perhaps it helps if those of us who are interested in this issue look at the actual deal arrangement to lessen the whirlpool of misunderstanding that many may have. On the question of whether Oil Search was locked out in the revised deal between Interoil and Total, Peter Botten strongly brushed these claims aside and defended Oil Search's 23% stake in Elk Antelope as a stake his company is currently happy with.
Frankly, what we paid was completely independent of anything to do with our financing of that transaction. We obviously had to raise $900 million or thereabouts and some money, extra money to support the future development. So that funding could have come from a range of sources. We certainly had a lot of shareholder support to underwrite a share issue to all our shareholders, and that's something we were pursuing very actively when we concluded the deal with Pacific LNG. We did, however, were approached by the government, recognising that their shareholding that was held originally by them was going to IPIC, and the government wished to take a 10% share and support the financing. We then had a choice to either go with a broader share placement, which was part of our original plan, or to place those shares to the government. Now, frankly, we think government's interest in Oil Search has been a very important part in us being able to grow the company over many years.
Now, with all the recent public discussion on the revised deal, Oil Search's concern has not been overly secluded to its business interests, but is also driven by its community service obligations to the people of PNG. This is evident in the way the company has embraced the people of Papua New Guinea. According to Peter Botten, the company's concern is embracing landowners when developing the second LNG project. More so, ensuring that the company continues to breach service delivery gaps in PNG by allowing the government to use the company's excellent service delivery capacity to deliver services to the rest of PNG.
But with a PNG angle, because we have to bring our landowners along, we have to be doing things which maybe foreign companies don't do. So we have a very comprehensive program to ensure that the benefit streams and the expectations of many of our communities about delivery of services, we can help government to try and meet. And that's something that's core to our business. It's a little bit different to many other companies around town and in this country, but it's something that's very important to us in terms of building our business and ensuring that business has a stable roots and can grow further.
Oil Search, being PNG's biggest company, will continue to expand, given its partnership with Total and Interoil in developing the Elk Antelope project, which currently contains the biggest undeveloped gas discovery in PNG. Furthermore, Oil Search, being a company built over many decades using PNG's resources and people, will continue to survive the test of time and will further expand given its strategic decisions to buy in on looming business opportunities both in PNG and abroad. We'll be back with more after the break. Welcome back. We now take a look at this report on the Women in Mining and Petroleum initiative.
The current resource sector boom in PNG is already contributing to growth in PNG's GDP, and further growth will be witnessed during PNG's first LNG export. This is according to a recent report by the Asian Development Bank. However, this growth in the absence of appropriate sustained intervention in addressing inequality will only mean a widening gap between the rich and the poor. It is widely agreed that growth and development is optimally enjoyed by everyone when embedded with responsible, sustainable, and inclusive principles. In addressing issues emanating from the resource boom in PNG, the Women in Mining and Petroleum project, funded by World Bank and implemented by the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, is working towards addressing issues affecting women in resource project affected areas.
The Women in Mining and Petroleum project was initiated in 2006 with funding from the Japan Social Development Fund through the World Bank. The PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum is the implementing agent, and it's a program that looks at addressing the needs of women in resource areas throughout Papua New Guinea. That's in both mining and petroleum. And we look at address needs such as economic empowerment, how women can also have opportunities and benefit from the major developments that are taking place in the country.
Women in Mining and Petroleum project, according to Mrs. Lesley Benette, was initiated basically by women coming from resource project affected areas who felt they were getting left out of the benefits coming from the development of major resources in the mining and petroleum sectors.
The project was initiated basically from the women in resource areas voicing concerns that their needs were not being properly addressed. They were missing out on benefits. There were a lot of social issues that come with major developments. With more cash, there are changes to the family life, to the environment. And this project is about trying to address some of those capacity and gap areas.
Furthermore, through economic empowerment interventions, the project has provided basic training for women to engage in small business activities such as agriculture, among others, with the overall aim of tapping into the spin-offs from mining and petroleum activities.
Through our economic empowerment programs, we try to give skills training in areas that can enable women to generate an income. Say, for example, with sewing, they can sew their own clothes and sell them, or use them for their families. Or also with sewing, they can try to get contracts from the companies to maybe sew uniforms or sew curtains for the company accommodation. Also, we've had successful agriculture training in Porgera, places like Porgera. We've had adult literacy and numeracy training in various projects. And the strategy that we try to use is to support the existing programs already in the project areas.
In terms of promoting a saving culture, Mrs. Lesley Benette stated that with the resource boom, it is paramount that people coming from resource project affected areas embrace a saving culture and save for the future and invest in tangible benefits.
I would like to encourage people to save and to save for the future. That now this is a good time. How can we enjoy this boom, but also think of what's going to happen afterwards, and invest in children's education, invest in projects that will be sustainable over a longer period of time.
In addressing issues affecting women, Women in Mining and Petroleum held a 2-day workshop last week for social development workers representing various mining and petroleum companies operating in the country. The participants were introduced to an innovative training technique using images or pictures as a tool for consultation and assessment in social and community work programs. One of the issues that this workshop was focused on was violence against women and girls. The workshop was convened by the PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. The workshop facilitator was Elizabeth Cox, who recently served a 6-year stint as Pacific Regional Program Director and as Chief Technical Advisor with UN Women. The technique has been successfully used in market improvement projects in PNG, Fiji and Solomon Islands, and in a baseline survey on violence against women in Jivaka province. With her extensive work with people in PNG, Ms. Cox has been asked to use her experience in addressing issues affecting women who comes from resource project affected areas. Ms. Cox's engagement has been to make sure that the project has some meaningful and lasting impacts in the life of people.
This project has been designed by other people, but the coordinator has asked me to assist to make sure that this project has some meaningful and lasting impact on the lives of women. I've been working with women in the women's organisation, women's education training in Papua New Guinea for a very long time, and there's a problem of a lot of projects not raising the critical issues that are to do with how life is changing, how the economy is changing, how the environment is changing, how family relationships are changing, and how that impacts upon the lives of women and girls, their opportunities, their rights, their participation. And this is much more critical in mining affected areas where things are changing very rapidly. And one of the first things that's felt at the household level is the first time very large amounts of money start flowing into the family and community. So what I've been asked to do is to bring some of the lessons learned from working with women in other parts of Papua New Guinea and other parts of the Pacific, and some of the tools to see if we can ensure that the funding that's available for this small project for women in mining is enabling women and men to discuss the issues that are critical and not just focus on training and addressing some practical needs, some skill training of women to learn how to sew, to learn how to cook, to learn about running a small business, but actually to get the women to say, what are the changes occurring in my family? What are the changes occurring in my community? How is it affecting my husband? How is it affecting me? How is that affecting our children?
Furthermore, Ms. Cox said that although her input is small, she hoped that the use of cartoons or images provided by local artist Albert Hipu, who hails from Enga province, will be a tool for engaging women to discuss amongst themselves the issues affecting them as a result of resource developments in their areas.
My input is small, but what I can do is bring a particular tool, in this case it's images. How can you deal with these critical and sensitive issues, rather than having a discussion where people shut down, women don't want to speak, people don't want to talk about the very negative problems that are happening, new forms of violence against women, misuse of money, wasted opportunities. Very hard to get people to start talking about that. So we're using images provided by a local artist to try to facilitate that discussion and get people talking about this as much as possible in the early stages of the mine, so they maximise their control about what's happening to their lives, maximise their benefits for women and children.
The use of cartoons or images has been used extensively over the years by NGOs and social development workers. And reintroducing this technique is important as social development workers in resource project affected communities are not familiar in using this innovative technique. And with the training that social development workers received, they can then apply the tool to assist them in reaching out to affected communities. According to Ms. Cox, using cartoons or images may look simple, but it is an important tool to overcome communication and cultural barriers.
Using cartoons doesn't really simplify it. It's a tool to get people to discuss. And so it looks simple, but it helps you to overcome language problems, overcome problems of cultural barriers to talk about sensitive issues. It helps you to get men and women's different opinions, different perceptions by having them look at and discuss these images separately and how they respond to it. So it overcomes many of the problems that you would have if you just tried to do things with a verbal discussion without any tools or through an interview process. Many things people will close up about, but if the picture's there and they're asked, women together with women, men together with men, what's in this picture, what's happening, it's a much greater likelihood that they'll start talking about the problem, they'll start telling you how frequently that problem is occurring, they'll start saying whether it's affecting their own lives. So you can get much further, much faster and deeper into the discussion on the issues with this simple tool.
Furthermore, Ms. Cox also stated that the design of the innovative technique of using cartoons or images is done to measure not only the beginning of the project, but also the different stages of the project. The technique is an effective monitoring and evaluation tool.
Because the tools themselves are used for evaluation of the project. So these are not only used for generating a discussion at the beginning, but there's a whole set of drawings, I wouldn't really call them cartoons, but drawings, images of situations that enable you to measure, are women getting more active, are they making more decisions about money, do they have more control over the money that they earn. We have images that help to measure that at the beginning and during the life of the project, to see if the project is achieving what you want to do.
Now with the innovative technique of using cartoons or images for conscious raising, social development workers will now have their work further enhanced in raising awareness on challenges affecting women in resource project affected areas, to be more informed on issues affecting them, and to be able to make informed decisions about their lives, families, and their communities, and most importantly, on their future.
Hidden Valley, that's next. You're with Resource PNG. We now join the General Manager for Hidden Valley Gold Mine, Bevan Jones, and we talk about MMJV's production plans.
I have with me Bevan Jones, the General Manager of Hidden Valley. Bevan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, Bevan, Morobe Mining Joint Venture has set a target of reducing its cost of production to $1,200 US per ounce. Are you on target to achieve that?
Okay, so that the target of $1,200 an ounce is by the 31st of December, so this year. We have been systematically reducing our costs on site, and in the last couple of months we've gotten into the 12s, and we're expecting to be able to get below the 1,200 by the end of December, which is obviously it's on foot at the moment. So it's a very big drive of ours to make sure that we reach that, and I'm very proud to say that all of the people who work at Hidden Valley are very focused to make sure that happens, to ensure that we still have ongoing viable business.
And how are you achieving this?
We've achieved it, or we're achieving it on many different levels, because look, it's just not one thing that was not working well for us. Initially, we started work developing people's understanding about what was required of them, our employees in particular, and making sure that we showed everybody what we really needed them to do for us, and why it was important for them to understand where the business was and individually what they had to do to make sure that we achieved our goal. We did that with a communication package to the people. We actually employed the services of Jonathan Thurston to be our number one supporter. Right. And so he did some work with us, some promotional work with us, and then we showed our employees what Jonathan thought we should do. And basically he talked about engaging everybody to be working in a team, because obviously on a mine is not much different to be any team sport, but rugby league in particular, where there's multiple departments that have to work together to ensure that the whole team reaches their goal. And obviously for us that was the $1 per ounce goal. So that was the main the work to get people to come on board with that process. We also had to in the same journey we had to ensure that our production increased. So to make sure that we produced the total material movement, the tonnes from the mine, that we got our throughput through our mill up to the targeted levels, and that we recovered the gold that we needed to. So the reason that the production numbers are what drives the overall dollars per ounce, because without the ounces you can't. The dollars are just dollars. Right. And so getting our production teams focused and producing what they're supposed to produce has been a big part of it. And the third one is cost. Cost is important, obviously, because it's part of the $1 per ounce equation. It wasn't our only focus, because if we just focused on cost, we won't achieve what we're trying to achieve. And what we asked people 3 main questions. And the question is, what can you do to increase production? What can you do to decrease cost? And what can you do to remove wastage from our organisation? And so those 3 questions is how we posed it to our people. And reducing costs has been, there's no sacred cows, I guess the theory was, if we looked at our business today, what is it supposed to look like to get $1,200 an ounce? And there's a relentless pursuit of all costs which are not assisting us with our target. And so there were reductions in staffing numbers across all levels in the organisation. There was reduction of fleet and equipment on site, and people were asked to have a personal stake in what we did, and we've had very modest pay rises for all staff, and including none for some. So it's been a team effort to make that happen, and it's been a journey, and it's going to continue to be a journey, because the reaching the $1,200 an ounce is only the first part of that journey, because everybody knows the gold price is going down as quickly as what our costs are going down. And so the next challenge for us is not $1,200 an ounce. So in January, I'll be then going to all of my teams and saying, $1,200 that was then, now it's all in sustaining costs less than $1,000, which is a huge change over the last couple of years. And when we pull that off, it will be a massive achievement for everybody involved.
But it sounds like you've taken the right steps towards this, and so the rest should not be too difficult, really.
Yes, look, the making sure our people understand what's expected of them, and setting our culture. One of the things that I like to do with our new employees is we have an induction. I like to talk to them, and when they first arrive, we'll welcome them to Hidden Valley. One of the things that comes out quite a lot is people are very well versed with understanding that within Papua New Guinea there is more than 800 languages, and with that comes probably a similar number of cultures or subcultures within that.
Right.
So what we've had to do at Hidden Valley is say, because we do have people from all over Papua New Guinea working for us, the Morobe province is mostly where we draw our people from, but we do have people from all over the place, is that understanding that when you come through the gate, the 800 cultures plus the cultures which our external employees bring with them, they are set aside, and the one culture that we use is what we've called the way we work. And so making sure that our people who come to work for us that are new, show them what is expected of them when they come to work at Hidden Valley, to make sure that we don't have a dilution of the culture which is driving us to where we need to be.
That's a great example of employee participation and ownership.
Yes,
That's
it is.
excellent.
Yep.
More of this interview when we return. Thanks for staying with us. In this next part of our interview with Hidden Valley General Manager Bevan Jones, we find out more about a unique piece of machinery.
I understand you're having some issues with your overland conveyor.
Yes.
How's that going?
Okay, so the overland conveyor is a unique piece of machinery for Hidden Valley. There's not many of them in operation in the world, and none of them in application that we have. And so when it was first constructed, we had a series of crushing units that crushed the material to a size that was too big to fit into the conveyor. Mm-hmm. So what happens is the conveyor is a standard looking conveyor when it starts. It's and when the material is placed on it, a series of rollers close it over, and it turns into a pipe. Mm-hmm. And so the pipe, and then it travels down the mountain in a pipe. Looks like a pipe by the time it does that, and it's a unique construction to allow it to go down very steep dipping grades, which a standard conveyor wouldn't be able to do. So we have a rather unique system, and initially we had problems associated with crushing the ore and making it all work. But for the survival of our operation, it's just imperative that it had to work. So earlier this year, we spent about $45 million upgrading the crushing circuits to ensure that the minimum size or the maximum size of the material was brought down to less than 100 millimetres, so that it would fit within the pipe. When the pipe closes, it's about 300 millimetres wide, so the pieces have to be smaller than that. So we've now got a system where we're able to break that material down to a suitable size. It fills the conveyor neatly, and it allows the pipe to travel without rocks getting stuck in the rollers. And so we've had great success in reducing the amount of haulage. So when the conveyor is not working properly, the shortfall of that has to be put in the back of trucks, and we have to then. It's about an hour journey from Hidden Valley down to where the processing plant is at Hamada, and very costly exercise. So we've managed to eliminate that and ensure that all of the rock that has to be transported between Hidden Valley and Hamada is now transported on the overland conveyor, and doing so, it saved a lot of cost, and it's much safer, so that we don't have a fleet of small trucks driving in steep mountainous conditions, interacting with other vehicles and pedestrians, and so we've got a much better system. So we've taken the average daily production from about 3,000 to 5,000 tonnes a day down the overland conveyor down to averaging over 10,000 tonnes a day regularly. Broken production records both weekly, monthly, quarterly, and so it's it's put us in a position where we're actually able to achieve our target of $1,200 an ounce by the end of this year.
Now, MMJV is also unique in the way it disposes of its tailings. Can you elaborate on that?
So with Morobe Mining, we constructed a tailings storage facility, and so you'll hear people describe that as a TSF. The TSF is basically a dam. It's sitting at about 2,000 metres above sea level. We've placed earth walls between in a valley, on either side of a valley, and we deposit the waste rock which comes out of the process plant into that particular dam. To do that, we've got a mine, Hamada mine, that is next door to the processing plant and the tailings storage facility. The waste rock that comes out of that mine goes into building the tailings storage facility, and it's made in several zones, so we need different sorts of material to do that. We need a clay material which provides an impervious layer. We have a crushed rock section which allows any water that does drain through to be collected, and then we have two other zones of material which basically provide the bulk of the dam to hold it in place, and also the armouring of it to protect it from rainfall. So all of the tailings gets pumped into that particular facility, and it's filling up all the time, and we have to continue to lift it. And it has worked well up until now. It's quite an engineering feat to make that all work in an area of high seismicity, as well as high rainfall. We get about 2,700 millimetres per year there. So we need to be able to have a facility where we collect that water and deal with it, and also any of the excess water that comes out of the process plant.
What are the long-term impacts of storing it that way? Okay,
so I think they're all positive, really. It means that we do not release any of that ground rock into the environment. So instead of it being released into the river systems and affecting the people downstream, we store it in one particular location, and all that gets released is clean water into the system, and so people don't really notice any difference downstream from where we're working. It's great for the local environment. I guess the potential drawbacks is that you've built a dam, and it's at the headwaters of the river, and potentially, if it wasn't constructed well, there could be issues in the future with that. But we have external consultants that monitor the construction of that dam as we build it and make sure that we're complying with our quality requirements. It's built and designed to withstand the conditions of our particular location, and so look, it is a positive step forward for the people of the Morobe province.
More of this interview when we return. Welcome back to the show. Continuing our interview with Bevan Jones, we find out the importance of stable waste dumps.
You're also constructing stable waste dumps. How significant is that?
Yeah, look, that is really, really significant, because what happens when you store the waste rock in steeply dipping mountainous areas in high rainfall is that inevitably the rain picks up sediment load from the waste rock, and it transports it down the river. When there was a period where these stable waste dumps were being constructed a few years ago, where we had excessive levels of turbidity in the water, and it's basically is just the rock or sand being picked up and washed into the river. So we recognised that was not a sustainable solution to what we were doing there, and we had to come up with a plan to ensure that the sediment load was dropped before the water left our area of influence. So what we had to do was build special structures at the base of the dump. We call that the toe, These tow drains, basically we excavated unsuitable material out of the river, the creek system in that area, and replaced it with graded rock and geotech fabric, which is a membrane which helps collect suspended solids in the water. And so that all the water was channeled through that area. It's basically, look, you could think of it as a big strainer, and so it strains out all of the rock and allows the water to be much cleaner by the time it's come out. Now, and then we build our waste dumps up from that, and the waste dumps are designed to be permanent structures, not to be erodible. So in some locations, the waste dumps are basically washed into the environment as they go along. We don't do that because we build stable structures which are not too dissimilar to the TSF, which are planned to be there forever.
Is that any different to what other players in the extractives are doing?
Yeah, look, I think that it's a unique. The TSF is unique to Papua New Guinea. There are other people that make permanent waste dumps, but there are people who don't as well. So it is different. It's definitely different.
Okay. So Bevan, staff retention has always been an issue for your company. How have you turned this around?
Okay, so people stay with an organisation when they feel happy and stable and that they feel like they're winning. It's very important for people to think that they're actually making progress. So when you have a situation where things are not going so well, like a couple of years ago, it is difficult to keep people. You know, it's just hard work every day coming to work. You know, there's no wins, there's no joy. It's just a hard slog, and it's difficult to retain people who have worked in other areas where it hasn't been so difficult. So the work we did on culture was very important in the retention part of our discussion as well, because it gave people a reason why am I here and where am I going and what am I going to do. So that is one area where it has happened. Actually achieving our targets and having a win is another area which assists us. We also have a very dedicated training team that has been putting together a series of, we call them lines of progression, but it's a structure so that people understand, how do I progress through your business or our business as it is. And so I start here, and if I want to be the mining manager, how do I do that? And so it's a bit like a map. The map also provides structure to ensure that people of like positions across the site get recognised similarly in terms of promotions and remuneration. So this whole, it's once again, it's not one thing that helps. It's got to be lots of little things help to bring it together, and people feeling proud of where they want to work. You know, like when I speak to our employees, when we started the $1,200 an ounce, well, the options are we sort this out, or maybe nobody's got a job. And you know, overwhelmingly, our employees they voted for let's all have a job and get involved, and so I think that involvement and understanding of the bigger picture and where they sit, like that would have helped with the retention as well.
That's great motivation to stay with the company. Thank you for your time today, Bevan.
Thank you.
Bevan Jones, General Manager of Hidden Valley.
More of Resource PNG after the break. You're with Resource PNG. We talked to David Wissink, General Manager, Sustainability and External Relations, Morobe Mining Joint Venture. In this segment, we find out about further exploration in the Wafi Golpu resource.
Thank you, Mr. Wissink, for your participation here on Resource PNG. The first question. The owners of the Morobe Mining Joint Venture have recently announced further exploration in the Wafi Golpu resource. What does this entail?
Oh, thanks, Michael. What this entails for the resource, for the exploration work that we announced today, really entails the next phase of the Wafi-Golpu project, and that's really to get underground and start exploring underground. As you've seen, the composition of the Wafi-Golpu resource is an underground resource. It lends itself well to a big underground mining project at some point. But in order to get there, we need to go underground and do it further exploration work. Essentially, we've drilled all we can drill, and all the results we've gotten, really it's where we can get to from the surface. So the next phase is really to do a feasibility study to put a large exploration shaft down right next to the ore body and explore from there.
Over 1 billion reserves has been estimated. Where does this place the project in the global rankings?
Okay. Yes, the billion tons of resource. It's not a resource. It's a resource, not a reserve. And so really that places the Wafi-Golpu project in the top 10 globally as far as projects that are really under pre-feasibility and exploration stage right now. PNG is pretty lucky. There's a number of big projects, and Wafi sits in the top 10.
In light of the broader global downturn, there seems to be some talk of downscaling projects. What sort of development approach is Morobe Mining Joint taking? Okay.
What we're looking at as far as development approach is concerned is looking at how we were able to look at a smaller startup cost. The initial pre-feasibility study that we did last year had an upper bound, which was quite high, large capital investment in the billions of dollars. So it's quite large. And then the current economic environment, as you mentioned, everybody's looking at how you can maybe start small and work your way up. So we're taking a phased approach to it. There's been several other examples around the world of companies who are looking at where's the economic threshold where they can start a project, and then ramp up over time as you go.
MMJV has been focusing on communities. What are some projects you've enabled?
Okay. We've done quite a bit of work in the communities, MMJV-wide, not just in the Wafi-Golpu area, but throughout Morobe province, where we work in the Hidden Valley area, in the exploration areas, in the Wafi-Golpu area itself. We've been focusing on health, education, infrastructure for the communities. Some of the ones we're most proud of is our water supply projects. We've done over 40 water supply projects in the last 3 years, from Hidden Valley all the way down to the Wafi area. Another one is community health. A lot of these communities are pretty remote. They don't get visited a lot by the health authorities, and they don't have access to medical facilities. What we've done, particularly in the Wafi area, we've actually operated a clinic for the last 9 years, and we've seen over 60,000 people in that clinic. And recently, with the expansion of our Wafi-Golpu project, what we've decided to do is try to extricate ourselves from being the principal health provider in the area and help the provincial government set up some additional clinics and to decentralize it all a bit and spread it out more. So we've built 2 brand new ones, fixed up 2 other ones, and so giving people better access to medical care. Another one is education. We'll focus on elementary education to start kids in school. You can offer scholarships, you can do all kinds of things with the older students, but you need to have a strong foundation for our kids in Papua New Guinea. For the future, we want to employ more Morabeans, more people from the mine area. So the most important thing we can do is help educate them. So we're doing education programs for the younger ones, getting them in school. Also working with the adults to try to work on adult literacy and numeracy programs to get them more, in a better position to be employable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wissink, for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that was Mr. David Wissink for MMJV.
That ends another edition of Resource PNG. If you have any comments or queries, do email us on this address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. Or to find out more, check MTV online. That's www.mtv.com.pg and go to our Resource PNG page. Or you can check our page on Facebook. Thanks for your company. Bye for now.